I stood in my living room in Denver, staring at the elegant wedding invitation in my hands. The cream-colored paper felt heavier than it should, like it was weighted with something I couldn't quite name. My son Michael's name was printed next to hers, Jessica Monroe. The wedding was set for 3 months from now, and my gut had been churning since the day he announced his engagement. I set the invitation down on the oak coffee table my late brother had made 30 years ago. Thomas. God, I missed him. He'd passed away 8 months earlier, leaving me his entire estate, $7 million. The money sat in a trust account, untouched. I hadn't told Michael about it yet. Something kept stopping me every time I opened my mouth to share the news. The doorbell rang. I glanced at my watch. 6:30, right on time. Michael never was late for our Thursday dinners. Dad! He pulled me into a hug, his architect's hands strong on my shoulders. At 35, my boy had grown into a good man. Smart, hard-working, honest to a fault. Maybe too honest. Jessica followed him in, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She wore a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Her smile was bright, practiced. Edward, so good to see you. She kissed my cheek, and I caught a whiff of expensive perfume. We settled around the dinner table. I'd made pot roast, Michael's favorite since he was 10. As I served the plates, Jessica pulled out her phone. Michael, honey, show your dad the venue photos. My son's face lit up. Dad, you're going to love this place. The Broadmoor in Colorado Springs. Jessica found it. I nodded, looking at the images he swiped through. Chandeliers, grand ballrooms, mountain views. Looks expensive. It's an investment in our future, Jessica said quickly. We want everything perfect for our special day. How much is this running you, son? Michael shifted. We've got it covered, Dad. Jessica's been saving, and I've got my bonus from the Morrison project. 40,000, Jessica added, her hand covering Michael's. But it's worth it. You only get married once, right? I watched her thumb stroke his knuckles. Something about the gesture felt calculated. After dinner, as Michael loaded the dishwasher, Jessica excused herself to the bathroom. I heard her heels on the stairs leading up to the second floor. That was odd. The powder room was right off the kitchen. I waited a minute, then followed quietly. Old habits from my army days. I found her in my study, standing near my desk. She turned, not startled, and smiled. Sorry, I got turned around. Your house is so lovely. Powder room's downstairs, left of the kitchen. Of course. Silly me. But I'd seen it. Just for a second. Her eyes had been scanning my desk, where I'd left some papers from my attorney. Not in clear view, but visible if you were looking. That night after they left, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the evening, Jessica's expensive taste, her confidence about spending 40,000 on a wedding, the way she'd gone upstairs. At 2 in the morning, I got up and checked my desk. Nothing was missing, but the papers were slightly askew. I always kept them perfectly aligned, another army habit. Someone had looked through them. The next morning, I called my old buddy Frank. We'd served together in the Gulf War, and now he ran a private investigation firm in Boulder. Frank, I need a favor. Name it, Ed. Background check. Quiet and thorough. Woman named Jessica Monroe, 32, works in marketing. Engaged to my son. There was a pause. You got a bad feeling? Yeah. Can't explain it, but yeah. Send me what you have. Give me a week. 6 days later, Frank called me at 7 in the morning. Ed, we need to talk. In person. Today. My chest tightened. That bad? Just come to my office. Noon. I drove to Boulder through mountain fog, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. Frank met me at the door of his small office on Pearl Street. His face was grim. He slid a manila folder across his desk. Jessica Monroe. Born Jessica Hartwick in Phoenix. Changed her name 4 years ago. I opened the folder. Photos, documents, a timeline that made my blood run cold. She was married before. Guy named Robert Chen, tech entrepreneur in Phoenix. Married him in 2019. 6 months later, filed for divorce, claiming she'd discovered significant assets he'd hidden from her during their courtship. Hidden assets? Frank nodded. Chen's grandfather had died right before they got engaged. Left him $4 million. Chen told Jessica he'd inherited $100,000. Wanted to make sure she loved him, not his money. Smart man. Jessica found out somehow. Hired a forensic accountant. argued in court that since they'd started dating after the grandfather got sick, the inheritance should be considered marital property due to commingling of assets and her contributions to the household. That's not how inheritance law works. You know that. I know that. But she had a shark lawyer who tied that case up for 18 months. Cost Chen a fortune in legal fees. Eventually they settled. She walked with $600,000 just to make it go away. My hands shook as I turned the pages. There's more, isn't there? Before Chen, she was engaged to a guy in Seattle. Marcus Holloway, real estate developer. That engagement ended suddenly. I called him. Took some convincing, but he talked. Said Jessica became obsessed with his finances. Started asking about his properties, his investments, his family's wealth. When he wouldn't give her access to his accounts, she accused him of hiding money and called off the wedding. Threatened to sue him for emotional distress and expenses she'd incurred planning their future. Jesus. Ed, there's a pattern here. She targets successful men, gets engaged quickly, somehow finds out about family, money, or inheritances. Then either manipulates her way to it or uses the legal system to extract what she can. I thought about Michael's whirlwind romance. They'd met 8 months ago. 8 months ago. Right after Thomas died. The obituary had been in the Denver Post. Local businessman leaves estate to brother, a retired Army officer. She knows about Thomas's money. Frank leaned back. I'd bet my license on it. The timing's too perfect. How long after your brother died did Michael meet her? 2 weeks. My voice cracked. They met at a coffee shop near his office. She spilled coffee on his laptop, insisted on buying him a new one. He thought it was fate. Calculated move. I've seen it before. These people study their targets. She probably knew his routine, knew where he'd be. I drove home in a daze. That evening I sat in my study, the folder open in front of me. I had to tell Michael. But how? He was in love. I'd seen it in his eyes at dinner. He thought he'd found his soulmate. I called him. Son, can you come over? Alone. I need to talk to you about something important. What's wrong, Dad? You sound weird. Just come. Please. He arrived 40 minutes later, concern etched on his face. I poured us both a whiskey and handed him the folder. Before you open that, I need to tell you something. When Uncle Thomas died, he left everything to me. $7 million. I haven't told you because I wanted to set it up right, in a trust for your future, for your kids someday. Michael's eyes widened. Dad, that's incredible. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wasn't sure who to trust. And now I know I was right to wait. Read the folder. I watched my son's face as he read. Confusion gave way to disbelief, then anger. This can't be right. Jessica wouldn't. Dad, this is some other woman with the same name. It's her, Frank confirmed it. Birth certificate, marriage license, court documents. It's all there. No. Michael stood up, pacing. You're trying to sabotage my relationship because you don't like her. You never have. Son, listen to me. I'm 35 years old. I can make my own decisions. Jessica loves me. This is just some conspiracy theory because you can't stand to see me happy. Michael. He threw the folder on my desk. Papers scattered. I'm leaving. Don't contact me until you're ready to apologize to her. The door slammed. I sat in the silence, my heart breaking. 3 weeks passed. Michael wouldn't return my calls. I drove by his place twice, but his car wasn't there. Finally, I called Frank. He didn't believe you? Worse. He thinks I'm trying to ruin his life. Frank sighed. I've got one more lead. Give me a few days. 5 days later, Frank called again. Found something. Jessica's been seeing a lawyer. Stuart Mitchell, family law attorney. Nasty piece of work. Specializes in high-asset divorces. She's already planning the divorce? Gets better. I've got a contact in Mitchell's office. Jessica had a consultation 6 weeks ago. Before Michael even proposed, she asked specifically about Colorado inheritance laws and how to establish claim to family assets acquired during marriage. Can you prove it? I've got the appointment record. Not enough for court, but enough to show your son. Also, remember Robert Chen? I contacted him again. He's willing to talk to Michael, tell him everything. He doesn't want another guy to go through what he did. That night, I wrote Michael an email. I didn't mention Jessica. I just told him I loved him, that I was sorry for the way I'd handled things, and that I wanted to meet for coffee. No pressure. He responded 2 days later. One word. Okay. We met at the same coffee shop where he'd met Jessica. The irony wasn't lost on me. Michael looked tired, thinner. He ordered a black coffee and sat across from me. "I'm sorry, son. I should have approached it differently." He nodded slowly. "I've been thinking a lot, Dad, about what you showed me, about Jessica." "Yeah?" "She's been asking questions. About Uncle Thomas, about the estate, about what you might have left. At first, I thought she was just curious, making conversation. But it's been constant. Every time we talk, she steers the conversation to money." My heart ached for him. "I've got someone who wants to talk to you. His name is Robert Chen. He was married to Jessica." Michael's hands clenched around his cup. "The guy from the folder. He wants to tell you his story. No pressure. Just a conversation." We met Robert at a quiet restaurant in Denver the next evening. He was 38, well-dressed, with kind eyes that held deep sadness. "Michael, I appreciate you hearing me out," Robert began. "I know how you feel right now. Defensive. Like everyone's attacking the woman you love. I felt the same way." For the next hour, Robert told his story. How Jessica had seemed perfect. How she'd supported him through his grandfather's death. How she'd suggested they move in together, then get married quickly. "Life's too short," she'd said. I told her about 100,000 inheritance. Wanted to see if she'd stay with me without knowing about the rest. She was understanding, supportive. We got married. 2 weeks later, I came home early from work. She was on the phone with someone, talking about asset searches and legal strategies. When she saw me, she hung up fast. Said it was about a friend's divorce. Michael listened, his face pale. 3 months later, she filed for divorce. Her lawyer argued that because my grandfather got sick while we were dating, and because we'd discussed marriage before he died, the inheritance was acquired in contemplation of marriage and should be partially hers. It was bullshit, but fighting it cost me $200,000 in legal fees. I settled to make it stop. "Why are you telling me this?" Michael asked quietly. "Because I saw your engagement announcement online. I recognized her immediately. I almost called then, but I figured you wouldn't believe some stranger. When Frank contacted me, I knew I had to try. After Robert left, Michael and I sat in my truck in the parking lot. He stared out the window, not speaking. I wanted to marry her, Dad. I thought she was the one." "I know, son. How do I? How do I confront her?" "Carefully. Let me call Frank. We'll figure it out." The next evening, Frank set up a meeting at his office. Michael, Frank, Robert, and me. Frank had printed everything. Court documents, the lawyer consultation, timeline comparisons with her other relationships, financial records showing her spending patterns. "Michael, you need to end this engagement," Frank said. "But do it smart. Don't mention the inheritance. Don't tell her what you know. Just say you're not ready, you need time, whatever. Get the ring back if you can." "What if she's changed?" Michael asked, but his voice held no conviction. "People like this don't change," Robert said. "They get better at hiding." That night, Michael called Jessica and asked her to meet him at a park near his condo. I waited in my truck a block away, my phone ready in case he needed backup. 30 minutes later, Michael walked to my truck and climbed in. His eyes were red. "Well?" I told her I needed to postpone the wedding. That I was overwhelmed with work and family stuff. She got angry. Really angry. Started talking about all the deposits we'd lose, how embarrassing it would be, how she'd already told everyone. Not about love? Not once, Dad. Not once did she say she'd wait because she loved me. It was all about the wedding, the money we'd lose, her reputation. He wiped his eyes. Then she said something weird. She said, "You're just like your Uncle Thomas. He probably told you to do this. He never liked me either. Thomas never met her." That's what I said. She got flustered, said she meant you, not Thomas. But Dad, Thomas died before I even met her. The pieces clicked into place. She researched Thomas. Knew about his money before she ever spilled coffee on your laptop. Michael nodded. I asked for the ring back. She refused. Said it was a gift. I told her to keep it. I just wanted out. 2 weeks later, Jessica called Michael. Her voice was sweet, apologetic. She said she'd overreacted, that she loved him, that they could work it out. Michael, following Frank's advice, told her he needed 6 months apart to think things through. 6 months? Her voice had turned sharp. "Michael, that's ridiculous. We need to talk about this now." "I'm sorry, Jessica. I need time. She called 17 times that night, sent 43 text messages. Some were loving, begging him to reconsider. Others were angry, accusing him of leading her on, wasting her time. The final message, sent at 3 in the morning, was chilling. You'll regret this. I know about your family money. I know your rights. Michael forwarded everything to Frank. She just admitted it. Frank grinned. Beautiful. This is harassment documentation. Keep it all. 3 months passed. Jessica tried everything. She showed up at Michael's office. She called me crying, begging me to convince Michael to take her back. She sent his mother, my ex-wife, long emails about how much she loved him. When none of that worked, she escalated. A letter arrived from Stuart Mitchell, her attorney. It demanded $50,000 for expenses Jessica had incurred planning the wedding, time invested in the relationship, and emotional distress. It suggested that if Michael didn't pay, they would file a civil suit and potentially investigate whether he or his family had fraudulently misrepresented financial status during the courtship. Frank laughed when he read it. This is extortion. Beautiful, documented extortion. We responded through our own attorney. The letter was concise. No payment would be made. Any further harassment would result in a restraining order. The attached evidence included Jessica's history with Robert Chen, the timeline of her targeting Michael after Thomas's death, her consultation with the divorce lawyer before the engagement, and her threatening messages. Stuart Mitchell called our attorney the same day. My client wishes to withdraw her demand. Your client wishes to avoid criminal charges, our attorney replied. Jessica disappeared from social media. Her phone was disconnected. Frank heard through his network that she'd moved to Phoenix. 6 months after the breakup, Michael came over for dinner. He looked better, healthier. He'd been seeing a therapist, working through the betrayal. Dad, I need to say something. Okay. Thank you. For trusting your gut. For investigating when I wouldn't listen. For not giving up on me even when I was an idiot. His voice broke. She almost destroyed me. If you hadn't stopped it. I pulled him into a hug. That's what fathers do, son. We protect our kids, even when they're adults. What are you going to do with Uncle Thomas's money? I smiled. Set up a trust, like I planned. For you, for your future kids. But also, I'm donating $1 million to Frank's organization. They're starting a program to help men and women identify financial predators before they get in too deep. Uncle Thomas would like that. Yeah, he would. We sat on the back porch, watching the sun set over the Rockies. My son was safe. The money was protected. The lesson had been learned, though painfully. You know what the hardest part was? Michael asked. What? Admitting I'd been fooled. Accepting that someone could plan that carefully, manipulate that skillfully. It made me feel stupid. You're not stupid. You're trusting. There's a difference. How do I trust again? Slowly, carefully, but you will. The right person won't rush you, won't ask about your money, won't need to know about trusts and inheritances. They'll just want you. 2 years have passed since then. Michael's dating someone new. Sarah, a teacher he met through friends. She drives a 10-year-old Honda and splits the check at dinner. She's never asked about my brother's estate. She just loves my son. Last month, Michael told me they were talking about getting engaged. I want to do it right this time, Dad. Slow. Make sure. You learn from your mistakes, son. We both did. I've thought a lot about those months. About the investigation, the confrontation, the aftermath. Some people have asked if I was wrong to interfere in my adult son's relationship. Maybe I was. Maybe I should have let him make his own mistakes. But when I see Michael now, happy and whole, building a life with someone who truly loves him, I know I made the right call. Sometimes protecting your children means making hard choices. It means trusting your instincts even when they push back. It means doing the unpopular thing because it's the right thing. Thomas's money sits in a trust now, carefully structured by attorneys who know what they're doing. Michael doesn't have direct access until he's 40, but the trust can distribute funds for important purchases. A house, education for his future children, medical emergencies. Any spouse he has will have no claim to it. The lawyers made sure of that. Last week, I got an email from Robert Chen. He's remarried now, to a woman he's known since college. They have a daughter. He wanted to thank me for letting him be part of Michael's story, for giving him a chance to prevent what happened to him from happening to someone else. I wrote back, "We protect each other. That's how we survive." I think about Jessica sometimes. Wonder if she found another target, another Michael. I hope not. I hope she got help, changed her ways. But I don't count on it. People like that, they're driven by something dark and hungry. They see relationships as transactions, love as currency to be exploited. My son is safe. My brother's legacy is protected. And I sleep well at night knowing I did what fathers are supposed to do. I stood between my child and danger, even when that danger wore designer dresses and smiled like sunshine. That's the story. That's how I hid $7 million from my son's fiancée and saved his future. Some people called me paranoid. Some said I was controlling. But Michael calls me Dad, says thank you, and means it. And that, in the end, is all that matters.